Now it's time for another Board Game Brawl preview with Nick Minahan, sponsored by BoardGameBliss.com. Hey people, today we're going to take a look at a game that is currently seeking funding on Kickstarter. That game is called Rising 5 and it's from Gary Kim Games. Now, unfortunately, there's only a few days left in the Kickstarter, so if you like what you see throughout the rest of this preview video, you need to immediately, don't wait, go to the Kickstarter page. You can follow the link up in the top corner of your screen, as well as down in the description section underneath this video. Those links will take you to the page. You gotta hurry, and hopefully you'll consider backing the project. Now, Rising 5, like I said, is from Gary Kim Games, and it is a fully cooperative game where you and the other players are like space agents who are trying to seal up a gate on this world where the gate was in place to keep back these monsters, but now they're flooding all over the planet and just making things horrible, potentially for the rest of the galaxy. So you need to try and reseal the gate, but that's easier said than done. There are these runes, and they have to be placed in a very specific order, and of course, you don't know the order. And in fact, that's random with each game. How is it random, you might ask? Well, this is a game that requires an app. It doesn't totally require an app. You can play with a game master if you so desire, but it's really made for the app, and the app is made for it, of course, and the app randomizes it. And what you're trying to do throughout the rest of the game is explore this planet, fight back against the monsters that are already loose on the planet, and try to acquire these cubes of power that will allow you to try and unlock the gate, and probably unsuccessfully at first, but then through trial and error, figure out what the right runes are for the gate, and of course using the app, and then eventually closing it fully and keeping the monsters at bay. You're doing this with these superpowered agents who all have their own special powers and so on and so forth, but again, working against the game, and you can just as easily lose as win. So let me go ahead and show you a brief look at the game with a prototype version of the game. I would say that probably everything except for the artwork is subject to change. We'll talk more about that later, so just keep that in mind. Then we're going to come back, we'll discuss it further. Rising 5 is a cooperative game for 1 to 5 players. The goal of the game is for the players to unlock the gates by finding the correct code. The game ends in defeat if either the entire character card deck is exhausted at the end of any player's turn, or if the darkness marker reaches the red moon space on the track. The most important thing to note about this game is that it primarily uses an app for the game functions that are not controlled by the players themselves. This is not strictly necessary, but if you don't use the app, one player will have to be the designated game master, using special components. Also, if you want to play the game solo, you must use the app. For this preview, we'll just focus on the multiplayer app mode. To start, lay out the board and the various components. Every character depicted on the board has a standee placed next to it. These 5 characters also have several cards representing them, all of which are shuffled together with the other cards to become the character deck. Every player gets 6 random cards for their starting hand. After that, in this deck, at even intervals, red moon cards will be placed. The more you choose to put in, the more difficult the game becomes. 3 relic item cards are placed face up next to a shuffled deck of treasure artifact cards. The darkness meter on the side of the board starts 3 spaces down. Around the board are regions. Each of the 3 regions gets a small deck of shuffled cards, along with 2 starter cards placed face up nearby. The gate token is placed face up in its proper spot, with 4 rune tokens chosen arbitrarily. The rest of the tokens are placed on their spots on the applicable track. Now, open the app and click Start. You can watch a short animation if you like, then click on the appropriate button, and the app will ask you to focus on the gate token and the 4 random runes you chose. Once it narrows in, it will then indicate 4 sign tokens. These are clues as to which runes are right and which are wrong. More on that later. Choose a start player, and the game proceeds clockwise from there. On your turn, there are 3 things you must do. First, if there are any empty region spaces, fill them with cards from their respective decks. Second, you may either take actions or pass altogether. If you choose to take actions, you must discard character cards of one kind from your hand. However many cards you discard, that's how many actions you get to take with that character. There are 3 possible actions. First, you can discard 1 card to move to any of the 6 different sites on the board. Or you can have an encounter at a region with one of the 2 face-up cards. That card might be a monster. For every character card you discard, you can fight the monster by rolling the red die. If you meet or beat the monster's power level, it's defeated and you collect the reward, though if you roll the sun symbol, it's an instant fail. You might get green cubes as a reward, which are placed on the altars one by one and are important for winning the game, or you might be able to move the darkness track back towards safety. Powerful boss monsters will give you clues as to which runes match up to which signs by clicking on the app, and also one of the 3 powerful relics, which give you one-time use abilities like gaining cubes or killing monsters, etc. Monsters also have a red moon rating though, and if you fail to defeat the monster, it stays where it is and you need to move the darkness track down by the amount of moons that are shown. Other players can support you in defeating the monster by discarding cards of the same character that you're using to give you a +1 bonus for each card, and having at least one other character with you at the site can give you a +1 bonus. You might instead run into helpers, who give you a special bonus by discarding a character card, or treasure boxes, which, also for 1 card, will give you a random artifact from the deck that can help out just like the relics. Every character also has a special ability you can activate once per turn before doing any actions. For instance, Echo can move any other character to any site, and Nova can fight any monster from anywhere by rolling the red die without support. The last type of action you can take is attempting to unlock the gate. If all 4 cubes are on their altars, you can use them to see if you have the right combination of runes, using the app. Just like in the beginning, the app will give you hints, using the images depicted on the tiles. You need to figure out which rune corresponds to the different shapes depicted on the tiles. If any of the clues have a shape with only darkness inside, that means there's 1 or more runes on the gate that are completely wrong. If the outline has stars inside of it, that means one of the runes is correct, but in the wrong place. And if you're really lucky, you'll get a golden symbol, which means one of the runes is correct and in the right place. You can use the area to the right of the rune track to keep track of the clues that you've acquired, and as you gain concrete information, you can mark it on the right side. Then, start over again, getting green cubes by going out into the field and finding out the right runes via trial and error. If they're all correct and in the right spot, you win the game. The last thing you must do on your turn is draw at least 1 card, even if you passed taking actions, though you may draw up to your hand limit if you wish. However, if you uncover one of the red moon cards seated throughout the deck, you must stop drawing. At the end of the next player's turn, he does not draw cards, but instead removes the red moon card from the game. Then, count up all the red moons on all monsters currently in play, and move the darkness track down by that many. Remember that the game ends in defeat if the marker reaches the end, or if the deck runs out. So as you may have noticed in that overview, especially if you're already a board gaming enthusiast, the artwork in the game is from Vincent Dutrait, who has made quite a name for himself in the last few years. I keep seeing his artwork more and more, and whenever I do, I definitely take note because it is very good, high-quality artwork. And I think that's why I can pretty much safely say that it will be in the final version of the game. And as you saw, it was fully on display in every bit of the game. But it's not just that makes this game interesting. Of course, there is the fact that it is an app game. Now, that's not necessarily everyone's cup of tea, but what I will say is that really what it does here in this game is to help you not have to do a lot of fiddly work to sort of represent the game working against you. And again, you can play with the game master, but using the app just keeps things flowing very smoothly, and you don't have to rely on just a bunch of like hand randomization. And again, it's just not as useful to have a game master, and it keeps everyone involved in the game itself because the game can go up to 5 players cooperatively. But at least you do have that option. And of course, if you do use the app, you can also play solo. So that's a helpful thing there. And then as far as the gameplay itself, this is a deduction game, but it's a deduction with so many other things going on because you're using these different characters, and it's interesting that no one is representing alone a certain character. You are deciding on your turn who you are going to use out of the 5 characters, and depending on what your cards are. So that's where there's like almost some hand management elements. Not almost, there are hand management elements in the game because you want to make the most of a character that you have control of on your turn by having as many cards as you possibly can. But it also helps if the other players have that character's cards as well, so that you can actually get support in combat, because winning combats is not easy in the game. So it's very interesting how that works and making the most use of each character's special abilities at the right time, given their focus, and so on and so forth. It really is an action efficiency game because you need to be getting those green cubes out as much as possible so you have as many guesses as possible to try and close the gate. But again, easier said than done. There's all kinds of relics and artifacts that you could potentially use in the game. There's, along with the deduction element of the game, because fighting monsters will also give you hints as well. And so, again, the app tries to be as unobtrusive as possible. It doesn't pull you out of the narrative. It just helps things along. And when you add that together with the theme and with the artwork, it really is a very interesting and unique gameplay experience for sure. And even in this prototype stage, it feels very polished. And of course, that may some things may change in the final version, but you can probably count on that level of sheen and polish holding through to the end. But of course, you should not take my word on any of this. Instead, what you should immediately do is go to the official Kickstarter project page, because again, there's not much time left. Go to the link in the top corner of your screen, as well as down in the description section underneath this video. Go there, find out more information about possible other contents that will be added to the game, different pledge levels, different things that can be added, so on and so forth, and hopefully consider backing the project. That is Rising 5 from Gary Kim Games. Thank you so much for watching and for supporting our sponsors. Take care. Thanks for watching. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Patreon. And make sure to check out our sponsor, Board Game Bliss, where you can find an amazing selection of games from around the world. BoardGameBliss.com. Thanks for your support.